Oh, for that experience. It is 8 o'clock, right? What else meeting to order? Thank you very much. Public order, you have six.
So sorry.
Seven. Board members present. Renee is excused absence, meaning that she would be on vacation. We did verify the meeting notice was posted last week outside the office in the proper time frame. With that, we'll stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation. What? Tonight, it's a turnout part. How many people you have on? Yeah.
35.
With that, or to board election. Yeah, so this meeting is originally called as a regular board meeting, but also meet the candidates night. In case we have candidates to meet. I guess the good news is our three board members whose term is expiring, which is Renee, Jody, and Jerry, have all elected to rerun for election in March, and nobody else has presented an interest in running. So you've been meeting the candidates all along and continue to meet them tonight. I just want to say thank you guys. Your service has been wonderful so far. Wonderful board members. It's a pleasure working with you all, and I'm glad to be back. And one other thing, just before we get into the formal part of the meeting, Terry Lee just handed me a letter, just thanking the Corey community, and I'll read it here. It's pretty short. I'd like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the Corey Beach Club, the Corey homeowners, Terry Lee, Pete Betzel, for their commendable recognition and support of the outstanding students at Immokalee High School. The presentation of certificates and $100 gift card is a meaningful gesture that makes a lasting impact on these students, many of whom demonstrate extraordinary perseverance in their academic pursuits while navigating daily challenges. Your generosity as a community and commitment to fostering educational excellence truly strengthen our community and inspire continued success among our students. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, who contributed to that. With that, point number 4, approval of the board draft minutes from December 9th, 2025. Do I hear a motion? And the second was Tom. All discussion on those minutes. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Approval of the minutes January 16th, 2026. Jody makes a motion. Jerry makes a second. Discussion on these minutes.
Any more comments?
Thank you. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to have the chairman of the Eco-Friendly Committee step forward and present our annual Owner Award for Eco Excellence. Actually, Mark, could you use your microphone, please? Sure. There. Are they all on? Or they should be. Okay. It's on. You'll just have to hold the phone. Take it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just get it. Go upstairs.
It's an award for the Eco Excellence. This is created to recognize individuals who go over to protect and our community. The name we recognize Susan Harrington. 7 years, it's been leader of the landscaping. its knowledge of plants and just native ones, avoiding invasive plants, to keep our community green. When you drive around the community and see its beauty, think of all of Susan's hard work and dedication. Thank you, Susan. You made such a positive impact in our community. On behalf of the Eco-Friendly Committee, congratulations. And our third winner with the gift certificate to the Beach Club. And receive your award.
Maria? Got it.
Thank you, Susan.
Congratulations. An agenda item, annual meeting proxy question presentation. That'll be done by President Tom Hutzler.
Okay, everybody, every year at this time, when we get ready for the annual meeting, the annual votes, there are several items, we take a chance to go through in exhaustive detail all of our CCNRs and make sure that everything is equal with them. Thank you to Showback and David, who've been working on this for the past several months. And I'm just going to go through what those items are, so you guys will all prepare in advance and answer any questions you may have. There's nothing significant this year when it comes to day-to-day operations, whatever circles and things just every year, the first question always resolves around what we do with the excess funds from the year before. This year, with the carryover that we have two options, and that's either to write everybody a check or just to take that money. As you can imagine, writing a check to homeowners is extremely complicated and expensive. So we never recommend doing that, but each and every year we just do a vote. So as usual, proxy question one is just going to be, do you approve the rollover of those funds next year's budget? Certainly support that. Say it's just all these work that we have to do to see checking them out. Second question, proxy question number two, is just a simple definition. We realize that very often we use the term single family homes, and in our definition section, we just never define what a single family home is. And just for some clarity, we have neighborhoods and homes, right? And in some ways, you kind of consider neighborhoods, but we also reference Breakwater as a neighborhood. The custom homes, which is marble, stone, and granite, is a neighborhood. And then we refer to the quarry, which is everybody else. Right? And really here, all we're doing is we're defining single family homes as those single family homes, which are part of Breakwater and the quarry neighborhood. And that's really an important thing from an accounting standpoint. The reason is when we say, for example, anything that's related to landscaping irrigation, Marblestone handles their own, but the other two neighborhoods do not. It's all covered within the HOA. So anyways, that's really just a cleaning up the definitions of what we're calling a single family home to kind of match what our practice has been for the past 5 years. Again, it won't change anything about the way we operate, budgeting, or execution. Proxy question 3 is it's about the removal of. And what we realized going through this year is that if the HOA decided to buy, it's outlined in the CCNRs how to go about doing it. And it takes a vote of the majority of there was no definition and no regulation in there on what would happen if we wanted to sell them. No one sold them. And we wanted to make sure it was clear what it would take to sell them. And there could be a lot of discussion on this, and the discussion wasn't whether or not we should regulate that. We all felt strongly that it absolutely required a homeowner. The question we had was, what level do we put homeowner influence? So this year's recommendation and the write-up, and this is all in your packet, and for now, I'm only going to go through the standard pages. If you go to past the summary page, each one of these actually has the edited version, and the edited version will show the addition and deletion language that I'll be explaining. You can actually see it in the handout that you have. And in there, what we're recommending is that the sale of any property requires a 67% vote of the voting members in the community, okay? Which is similar to a lot of the votes that we do here. And we felt very strongly that if we were going to sell something, it needs to be thoroughly vetted and approved by more than 2/3 of the people, homeowners in the community. Really, it's to prevent a board from going rogue. So to speak, today, it's not defined at all. So I don't even know what happens if we want to sell property. At least going forward now, it would take a vote of these entire community. Yes.
Just for clarity, my understanding is it would take a 67% on passage of those who vote, and the vote would be a quorum, which would be 30% of homeowners, not 67% of all homeowners. I just want to make sure that the audience is clear.
Let say that quickly, but let's thank you for the clarity.
I just
67% of those voted, not 67% of the homes. Right? Even in our most significant votes, like the project, for example, we only get about 70% of people voting.
when we did the project, about 75 or 76% of homeowners. So that's of 900 doors, 75% was over 600 people. This one would require, when you're talking about the voting, it's we need a minimum of a quorum, which is 30% of 900 doors, which is 270. So we then would need to have 67% if the minimum voted of 270. Just to be clear, it's confusing.
And votes. Well, we fell over the quorum vote. We don't go near the usual. But again, this is 67% voting. A little bit, quite frankly, because anything controversial, you should say well, it's going to be my name. And to be clear, there is nothing brave or other people is considering selling. This isn't parent or anything. It's just a safe measure to make sure that as a road board in the future, if anything came up, that the entire community is protected against that. Okay. Proxy question 4. This is really of a technical nature. If you read Article 12.8, it talks about reserve budgets and the contributions. There's language in there that references both statutory and non-statutory reserves that are held. It's quite a bit confusing. The reality is we are non-statutory. So we're cleaning up the language to remove any of the terminology towards statutory, make it clear these are all non-statutory reserves that we collect, and then from there everything is governed still, and no changes to be made on how we actually go about collecting or spending reserves. Sure.
Selling. I go back. Selling any property. Real property, equipment, what are we talking about? The reason I asked Tom is from time to time, some of our equipment ages out, specifically the vehicles, and we'll trade them in, which is selling them for a new one, something like that. And I want to see if it falls under this and I was probably remiss not bringing this up earlier when we discussed it. Maybe we should put a dollar amount on it as well. Otherwise, every time we sell something like that, it would vote, unless it's just real property costs. Help us out. Real property. Okay. That's all this is. That's great. Great, thank you.
I'm just looking more closely at the exact language, just to make sure. Only because section 10.3 of the property, real property, it does say, and one that's always been there, beach club cannot be removed, thankfully. And then the language says, in any way dispose of any portion of the property, improved or unimproved, without a 67% vote. I certainly do believe that implies real property, but let's just make sure we're comfortable with the language.
Capital P in property is a defined term found in section 3 of the CCF.
That's why we have time. Okay, I covered section 4 with the statutory and non-statutory businesses. And then the last one, proxy question 5. This largely goes to the irrigation systems, and it's making clear the community responsibility for irrigation, which is all, it's from this way, the massive irrigation of bringing everything. So the single family homes cover all irrigation. In the custom homes along marble stone and granite, there we cover the real estate up to the irrigation up to the property, but not on it. And so what proxy question 5 does is clarifies that that's actually the case. And those are 5. Are there any questions regarding this? Again, all the detailed language and additions and strikeouts are included in the packet. If they have any questions, feel free to reach out and contact Scott or any of the board members. I'm sure back directly if you'd like, and any questions could be answered. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And most importantly, Tom Schoback, thank you very much for working through these and drafting these and working with Mark and the lawyers to make sure that they're correct. Thank you, Tom. All right, next on the agenda, we have 2 violation notices for the board to consider. I'll read through them, and then the board can have a discussion on them. The first one is it relates to 9700 Cobalt Cove Circle. There is an owner with regards to for the board to consider. Where the owner should, or I'll read what the violation says essentially, is that this owner has violated community rules and regulations, Article 15, Standards of Conduct, which states the owner shall conduct themselves in civil, respectful, and considerate manner, and refrain from verbal abuse, aggressive and threatening behavior, unwelcoming, hostile physical contact. Number 2, owner shall refrain from loud and offensive language and confronting or reprimanding other owners or property employees regarding their behavior, service, or job performance, and instead refer incidents to management. This incident occurred on December 7th, 2025. The board has seen 2 letters with regards to this. At this time, I leave it in the board's hands to discuss any sort of action that you'd like to take.
So is there recommended action based on this?
I do not have a recommendation. Letters that were submitted. Close.
A general question. I have a question, Sam. I guess my question is, if as a homeowner have an issue to bring something to attention, in any case, why wouldn't I just raise my hands? Why wouldn't I come to Scott, who's responsible, all staff, including vendors, and let him address the situation as opposed to me getting personally?
Appropriate.
Yeah.
A number of things.
It is.
It
Do we
is,
need to be more explicit about that process, so then,
I think we can do it now. I mean, I think you've outlined it pretty clearly that if there's a problem, a challenge, whatever it might be. Employees in particular, vendors, they're hired, their livelihoods depends on, quite honestly, all of you liking them and doing a great job and they don't have the opportunity to defend themselves sometimes, verbally typically. And we would hope that the homeowners would come to me so that I may work with either the board or with this individual team member or vendor to solve whatever problem might comes up. And hopefully that's the path that happens. I can assure you that we take any sort of incident item that comes to me with an employee very seriously. And there's proper, as you might imagine, human resource protocols that we would follow in that case. Thank you, Pam, for bringing it up.
Question. The principals involved in this, did they ever get together with any apology aid? Did they ever have any follow-up discussion?
Not that I'm aware of.
And maybe for the benefit of the audience, to at least understand in a little bit more detail, I think probably is a little bit of discussion here. The day in question is the day of the golf referee, and a homeowner chose to vent some frustrations directly to one of our employees that was running them in a way that was both harsh, public, and unfortunate. Quite frankly, very unnecessary. And to the employee, very, very upsetting, very upsetting. So relatively quickly, several people were involved, well, particularly in settling the situation and calming those at that point. But it was really something that was unnecessary. So it came to us fairly quickly with regards to issuing an advisory letter, which was done. The homeowner in question has replied with an apology letter. And I think the question for the board here is, are we comfortable leaving it at that, or do we believe that some sort of sanctioning should take place more than just the advisory letter? And so what that might be, then I'll just allow people to comment based on that.
So one of the things I always am concerned about when I hear something like that is us staying consistent in how we've done it in the past.
The
And
microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm always concerned about us being consistent, do it the same way every time. So we can't say we play favorites because we're friends and neighbors, but we do it the right way. Is there any history, does anybody know of this kind of behavior and what have we done in the past?
Sure. Typically, this would be perhaps some sort of limiting the use of the beach club in some way. Maybe it's a week suspension, a month suspension. Really kind of just dependent on that, the severity of it all.
And is there usually any fine?
There hasn't been a fine. Doesn't mean there could be, but typically there hasn't been. And we had 2 years ago where the gentleman refused to apologize and said, take it, whatever. And in this case, I think the mitigating circumstances, we have a letter, obviously, from the homeowner, admitting what happened. So that's the difference.
I don't think we've actually ever had that involved a homeowner staff, so a precedent and consistency. I don't think there's debate that.
Jody, excuse me, that's incorrect.
Okay, I'm sorry.
With Billy Joe at the back gatehouse, if you remember.
I don't, but.
Okay.
And
In that case, it was a 30-day suspension.
Thoughts? I have some offer, but I'm waiting for some support.
Started out. I don't think you could just let things like this go. But I think you've got to be reasonable and respectful that the owner did step out And I read the letter, I think you all read it. That makes a difference. I think the one that I wrote more clearly, the owner was more abrasive and didn't want to admit fault and, you know, yada, yada. I think that is different. So in my view, we suspect it should be a very short period of time. So say we did the right thing.
My only concern, John, is the letter was to the board. I really wish there was reached to the person that was offended. Was really emotionally affected by it. You know, I think that's the missing element here. That's a very important element.
Good point.
And my 2 cents bigger than holding up at this point is that I just believe 2 things. Number one, an incident like this never should have happened. The feedback never should have. What the complaint was, quite frankly, was small. I'm not saying it didn't exist, but certainly didn't warrant the excessive feedback that was provided to our employee in public setting. Number one, and number two, I think there comes a point where we really do have to stand behind our employees and do all the and I'm very much with you, John. And it's great. It is nice to have received.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, there comes a point where it's just now they're getting sanctioned. So my recommendation proposal would be 2 weeks each club facilities. I think it's enough to say we take these things very seriously. Yet it's not overly extensive, especially in the hard season. But I do think that having any sanction would be therefore something to me is very important.
It's reasonable and appropriate.
Does need to.
Good. Could we have a motion? Well, I'm sorry, before we do that. If the homeowner is here and would like to speak, now would be the time to come to the microphone. If not, maybe they're on Zoom. Give them a couple minutes to identify if they'd like. Mark, any hands going up?
No, sir.
With that, okay, but then I'll make a motion then to follow the advisory letter to the owner of homeowner at 9700 Cobalt Cove and propose a sanction of 2 weeks from use of all beach club facilities starting at the conclusion of the hearing. This would be a hearing committee.
So the process is that if the board levies a sanction,
Right.
that the homeowner would receive a hearing committee meeting notice with the date and time where they would be able to come and state their case to the hearing committee, and then the hearing committee will ultimately make a decision to either confirm or reject the sanction that the board puts in place. And this is really just to, again, similar to what you had said earlier when you were talking about the privacy questions. If there's ever a role for, you know, you don't want the board to be the judge, jury, and executioner. So that's the really important role that the hearing committee plays.
Jody, not to pass words, but just so everyone's clear, Jody said we levy a sanction. We don't levy a sanction. The board can only recommend a sanction, but it's the hearing committee that either affirms or denies the recommendation.
No, we levy.
What does the word levy mean then?
That means that we make it's a recommendation. And so what it means for the hearing committee and for the people that are involved in the violation is the hearing committee cannot overturn what the board has determined has occurred. If the board determines that a violation of one of the rules or the governing documents occurred, it's up to the board to levy a sanction or recommend a sanction. But only the hearing committee can impose it or not. If the hearing committee thinks that the sanction that the board recommended was too stern, then they can reject it. The hearing committee does not have the ability to actually change what the recommendation or the sanction that the board has levied, nor can they overturn you know, if the board has determined a violation has occurred. I know it's sort of, it's.
So- Hearing the motion, I'm looking for a second on the motion. Second. And now we would have that discussion. Is there any further discussion from the board? All those in favor? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much for that. All right, the next, you
Yes, go ahead. You have a question, and I think
repeat the question.
so. We have an audience member who wants to know why we have a hearing committee if they can't overrule anything. So this is really aligned, the process is aligned with state statutes. And it's really about what they can overrule is if the board said, we're gonna find this particular individual $1,000, they could say, that's not. So that's where in terms of sort of the checks and the balance come into play. So it's sort of, again, it's not one group of people, but it's actually another group of homeowners. Is that all?
Speed of course. This person be coming to use the facility and does it include also family or just this individual?
So this motion was for the individual, did it say the homeowner at, and Scott, can you just explain how?
Sure. So the hearing committee upholds it, it'll go into effect the following day. I sent an email out to our department heads and we just looked through the reservations as well as we know this person, as we know most of the owners. And if we do see them here on Beachville campus, we just politely ask them and remind them that in a couple of weeks, we're there.
And beach club amenities, everything. Transportation, it's the entirety of the beach club.
It does not include access to the front gate. So, or they don't make, they're still.
Yeah.
Unless you're really bad, then we can think of another step. Well, so the board we were talking about. It, you know, it can.
Yeah, we can barely do that.
I think the most recent situation we had, it was just, I think it was the child of a homeowner. So, you know, we try to look at each case individually. To something John had mentioned, we try to be consistent in everything that we do. We're not perfect, but we can try. Does that help?
Moving on to the next one. We have a violation notice that was sent to the owner at 9528 Ironstone Terrace, number 201. Similar situation, for violating provisions, community rules and regulations, Article 15, standard of conduct states, owner shall conduct themselves in a civil, respectful, and considerate manner and refrain from verbal abuse, aggressive or threatening behavior, unwelcome or hostile physical contact. Number 2, owner shall refrain from loud or offensive language and confronting or reprimanding other owner or property employees, regarding their behavior, service, or job performance, and instead refer incidents to management. This incident happened on December 7th. Essentially, the gentleman stepped into the room here, was working out without a shirt on. Our vendor came forward to remind him, and then there were some words that happened after the fact. The board again has letters from both the vendor as well as the owner. Again, the owner is apologetic and has since spoken to the vendor personally. With that, I do have a recommendation for this one. I'd recommend that it is again, I was going to say 1 week suspension use of the wellness center.
Also in the board?
Yeah. I think that's reasonable. I saw multiple emails and that went back and forth. And from both the involved vendor, you know, he was grateful for the exchange that occurred. So I think what you're looking at is.
My personal opinion is I would be consistent at 2 weeks. To me, the only difference is we received apology letters on both. This homeowner did actually go directly to the employee and say he was sorry, and that was well received by the employee. But in the end, to me, it's still not enough to negate the severity of what was said, which again was very offensive, and to me warrants every bit the same sanction as before. So, with all due respect, I want to be consistent with the previous sanction, and they're going to make a motion to sanction this homeowner only to 2-week sanction of all beach club amenities. And all amenities.
Second, Mark seconds. Further discussion on this motion? I should ask, is the homeowner available to present or are they online? If so, raise your hand if you're online.
I do not have any hands raised.
Are you the homeowner?
Yes.
No, I'm sorry, are you the homeowner at 9528? So all those in favor of the motion that's been presented? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Would you like to take your next question? Yes.
So it's totally in reverse, where our vendors are abusive to homeowners. What happens?
Then you definitely should let me know, since we probably won't see those vendors here in a while.
They're saying that there's are fluent in Spanish, we understand everything that's going on, and if it's very abusive between they're trying to.
So we asked, so the question from the audience, the homeowner, was what happens if a vendor is of not performing or acting correctly as they should here in the court? And by all means, let me know as soon as you do who this is, dates, times, whatever you can do, and we will make sure that we take appropriate actions at that.
Scott, I have some, I hate to, but I think it may be appropriate, since we've dealt with this twice in the last half hour, that we send a reminder out to all homeowners how to deal with these situations and what is appropriate, whether it's homeowner to homeowner, vendor to homeowner, homeowner to vendor, or I think.
Mark, we get that.
Absolutely. No problem.
Thank you.
Scott, I think two areas, sometimes they can't hit you because it's 10 o'clock at night and they're in the beach club and there's a manager on the beat, and it's a sort of a thing about, but you get the gist. But we should make sure they understand the protocol. Obviously, if it's one of your direct staff, it's you, but there's times where it doesn't make sense to go to you, and you're not here. You should go to.
And the department head too.
Okay.
Good. All right, we'll move on. Highly anticipated general manager report. Thank you all for packing a room. We appreciate that. For the general manager report, I'm sure that's pleasure. We're going to start with the New Year's Eve survey. Who's at New Year's Eve? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. All right. Couple people. So if you look on your handouts on the screen, how do we rate New Year's Eve? 4.6. Year before was a 4.6, so we're pretty steady there. It's out of 5. We'd like to see that. Oops, too fast. How satisfied with your decorations at the event? We did pretty well there. Again, the greens are good, the blues are good, the yellows are neutral, and anything below that is bad. Next one we have is how would you rate the friendliness and professionalism of the staff during the event? 4.9. We usually get a 4.8 or 4.9 when it comes to front of the house staff. We're pretty good there. Was the availability? This is a question a lot of people have asked about open bar. Was the availability of an open bar factor in your decision to attend the party? You can see a significant yes on this group. This group was also, I will tell you, there were 2 surveys that were sent. This is the result from the people who came to the after party call it. When we looked at the group who attended the dinner and after party, it was a little bit more closely 50-50s. The next one, how satisfied were you with the decorations at the event? Again, decorations that we have. And then the one that we still have to work on, how satisfied with you were the food options available? We're about 50-50 when you do who was satisfied, very satisfied, who was dissatisfied and very dissatisfied. This is one of our takeaways from the survey. We know that we have to do better. A couple of the comments that we heard is we really wanted prime rib and lobster. Those are two things that people expect to see on New Year's Eve. We had shrimp, we had oysters, we did not have lobster. We had a carving station with steak, we did not have prime rib, we had a different steak. So those are things, the perception is there. We heard about, there were probably 5 comments that were turned in that says, need the lobster, need the prime rib for New Year's Eve. So we're gonna be evaluating that for next year, and that was heard loud and clear.
Did you have that last year?
We did. Yeah, it was one of the changes we made this year.
So what was the total attendance?
Well, total attendance, we had 212 for the dinner, and we had 246, I think it was, for the after party. So just under 500 people total at anything. It was. And what we're seeing over, so we've had the New Year's Eve party at the new facility 3 times. First year, obviously, we're just opening, so we knew it was a new thing. We had like 400 people for that first one, for dinner only, or dinner and, but total 500 people. Last year, we saw the number about 252 for the dinner and dancing, and then this year we're at 212. So we see the dinner coming down. We know the last 2 years, the golf club had a competing New Year's Eve event with dinner and band. We know that a number of the people go there for dinner and come and see us for the after party. There's a lot of options in the community. I think we're still zeroing in exactly what our menu should be, but I think the party side of it is really well liked. Like I said, I think the food is where we have to focus. Any other question? Sugarcane mosaic virus update. The landscaping committee has kept this in front of their minds. Just a couple updates. We'll be reviewing reviewing your lawns with our vendor partners assistance in late February. That's when we're going to see, with all this cold weather and dry conditions, we're going to be able to assess the lawns late February, all 581 single family homes. That includes breakwater as well, as included in that number. And what we're going to be looking for is sugarcane mosaic virus. We'll be testing some of the lawns. Some of it you can identify just by a blade of grass. But most importantly, right now you see around the community something called large patch. This is what happens this time of year. Large patch is identified as brown grass, kind of in a circle, and it has kind of a copper tinge to the outside of the circle. You'll see a really good example right now is on West Quarry Burb. If you drive down that West Quarry Burb, you'll see that we treated that about a week ago. So we're going to see is because large patch your lawn can recover, but the sugarcane mosaic virus won't. So we have to identify. Excuse me, Renee Poppy's calling me.
Just see if she has her hand up.
So the is based on the percentage of the lawn that's infected with the sugarcane mosaic virus. Again, right now we're thinking 51% seems to be the working number. When we complete the list, we're going to compare it to the list that we had about 12 months ago. Is it growing in our community? Is it spreading? What's the how quickly or how great is the spread become? It's going to be a real telling tale when we get to kind of that early March timeframe. We have all the data back and we're able to compare the year-over-year data to see how quickly it's spreading. The quarter has put aside $85,000 this year in a reserve account to assist with lawn replacements. Once that list has been determined and replacements could begin, it will begin in summertime with that $85,000. And again, in that summertime, that June, July, August, September, when we start doing budgets for 2027, we're going to have a lot better handle as we're sitting here a year from now to say, how quickly is it spreading? What have we identified? You'll be able to say, hey, look, is my lawn on that list? Is it not? Where are we at with that? We'll have a pretty good handle on that. And I've been asked this a couple of times, is it just myself and the landscaping committee just going around looking at lawns? Absolutely not. We're calling in not only our landscapers to help us, but also Renee and Susan are working with really industry experts as far as turf care. We hooked into a gentleman, Joe Spot, but he's local here and he's really provided us just a wealth of information as far as what's good, what's bad, just directing what farmers are raising, the different grasses and things like that. A good example of what the new grass will look like, I think, is when you go out of Kayak Drive, you turn right, you're heading towards the back gate. In the median, you're going to see some brown areas just after you get past breakwater. It's going to be in the median there. You're going to see a brown patch of median, and then you're going to see wow, that's like amazing green grass. So right now, during the cold weather and the drought, you'll see what that grass looks like. And it's pretty easy to see when it's up against the other types of grasses in the medians. No, not past Marble, in between Breakwater Gate and Marblestone, in that median right there, we did a sample. We did that sample without putting down any sort of weed killer. So we could see here in the next couple of months if the weeds will come through after we strip the sod or if we have to do the weed killer. That's still a question that's out there. Hopefully that gives you a little insight of where we're at. Any questions about that?
I have a question, Scott.
Yeah, Jeff.
So we got $85,000. I know there's a range in size of the lots, but be the typical, what would think the cost would be per inch?
Sure. It's a great question. You looked at the number of them. It ranges 1 yard that has sort of a triangle pie shape. There's upwards of $10,000 per yard, but there's some smaller ones that are $4,000 to $6,000. So it just really ranges as far as the true square footage, what it breaks down. So
Scott, I've heard a rumor that the landscaping committee is actually, the entire committee is rolling up their sleeves and they're having plans to do some additional plantings. Are you able to elaborate?
Sure. So I'm putting the landscaping committee to work with the help of our maintenance team. And there's a number of spots that have been identified in common area flower beds that where bushes, shrubs have just died over the years. And just blank areas. So last year we were developing our budget. We came up with a plan to essentially, how do we fill these areas, do it cost effectively, and make it look like it's meant to be there. So the landscaping committee went through last month, identified these areas, and we'll be purchasing, as budgeted, about 2,000, I think they're 3-gallon pots of the Fakahatchee grass and the muley grasses. Those are ones with a pretty fuzzy tops to them and things like that to fill in these spaces. And so the landscaping committee is going to help essentially identify where these grasses go, and then our maintenance team is going to put them in there. If anybody else wants to volunteer when we have planting days, it's really not fun planting in the quarry, but we'll take your help. But that should be happening here in the next month. Like I said, there's a number of areas that we're just like mulch, and we really need to fill that in.
So the landscaping is going to be helping.
Oh yeah.
With the plantings.
Yep. Yep.
Be lucky.
So, any other questions about that, or anybody wants to volunteer now? I'll write your name down. All right.
Susan, you got to take her up front.
All right. Next on the list, next on the agenda. Mark is going to present the Lakes Committee presentation of the 2025 Lake Survey. I did want to thank everyone who filled this out. This is, I think it came close to, as far as our surveys. This is the second most popular survey that we've done. We've had a lot of great feedback.
We were pleased to see all the interest in the lakes. With the help of Scott and Survey Monkey, we completed this study about 8 weeks ago. The study had about 36 questions. And this is the first question here. It shows that basically most people just enjoy, they really enjoy the beauty of the lakes. It's the centerpiece of our community. And, that is the big part of the enjoyment we get here from the lakes. The one thing that probably should have been different is this shows water skiing. We should have listed toe sports because toe sports are bigger than water skiing. Includes wake surfing, wakeboarding, throwing inflatables and stuff like that. So at our lake committee meeting, Scott suggests that we put this in ChatGPT and see how it would summarize the results. So we did that, and we were really impressed with the results that we got. If we can have the next slide here, rather than go through all the questions or picking out a few questions, we're just going to review kind of the results from what ChatGPT concluded. And you know, again, it emphasized how everyone just enjoys viewing the lakes here. The lakes are the centerpiece of the community, and they're a big driver as far as the appreciation that has occurred in the community. The number one concern, if we go on to the next slide, is the weed overgrowth. That's by far the number one concern. You know, we have three big lakes here. Stone, that's the big lake the community is built around. That's a deep lake. Then there's Boulder. It's the shallower lake. You know, the majority of Boulder is owned by Heritage CBD. And if you go through that last bridge, then you're at Heritage Lake. Now, the Quarry CDD owns Stone Lake and about a quarter of Boulder, and Heritage CDD owns the rest of Boulder and all of Heritage Lakes. We're working with the Quarry CDD to develop some goals and guidelines to improve the weed control here. And we've kind of formed a little task force. We've been meeting. We're going to meet again on February 9th at 4 p.m. And if you're interested in the weeds, you're welcome to attend. Of course, it's a public meeting. The biggest problems with weeds are really over in Boulder Lake. That's the next one. Okay, we've got that. Boulder is the shallowest lake. So most of the weeds that we have here are, the most common weed is Illinois pondweed, and it really won't grow in anything deeper than about 12 feet of water because the sunlight has to get down to the bottom there. So we really have a big problem over at Boulder Lake. Thanks to the agreement that the community has worked out with Heritage CDD, we have the rights to utilize Boulder and Heritage Lakes. You know, we can go boating on and do whatever we want. The folks that live over in Heritage can't use the lakes in their community. You know, they can't put a kayak in there or anything like that. Heritage spends a minimal amount of money to try to do a moderate amount of weed control over at Boulder Lake. We've had some discussions with them about the possibility of having them do a little better job. We want to maintain navigability over in Boulder Lake. Lakes have a tendency to fill in over time. And if you don't take care of them properly, you know, they just continue to get worse. If we get to the next page, the summary shows that there's strong support for future investment levels. This is interesting because as a community, we've spent about nothing here on the lakes in our community. I mean, last year we spent about $13,000 for the lake study, and that provided us some valuable information. It turns out, you know, the boat storage and dock space is actually a source of revenue for the community. You know, last year that totaled about $135,000 of revenue that the lakes brought into the community. The community is very interested in more lake programming, and some of this is done by volunteer. You know, I started the fishing club 5 years ago. You know, we have a series of tournaments. Pat, Rich Marks, and Ted Wark have started a what is the word? A pontoon flotilla group, and they were going to have their first flotilla, and you can go out there and fly up next to another boat, and it will be a social situation. They had to cancel that because of you know, the cold weather and the weather wasn't so conducive last Sunday. And this year we're going to have our first boat parade, and amazingly 35 boats have signed up. And 160 people are signed up for this event. Maybe that's because you get a free margarita if you sign up. February 21st, because the next 10 days look like they're going to be pretty cool. There's also talk about kind of a celebrate the lake day. You know, it's partially educational, partly recreational. I don't know get that done this year, maybe that'll be next year. But we're looking for more ways to enjoy and appreciate the lakes here. The lakes are the centerpiece of the community. It's why I moved here. A lot of people I talk to, it's why they moved here. If you have any ideas how we can better enjoy the lakes here, please reach out to Scott and myself. Because we want to do the best we can for the lakes and enjoy them here. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's questions, I invite you to go to the microphone so that the people at home who are listening.
Thank you. I think is the flotilla 22nd or 21st of February. Next one.
They rescheduled. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay. Okay, that's what I thought, because it's scheduled on the same day as the boat parade. So I don't know if that's maybe a conflict or
Yeah.
Another boat schedule.
Just learned the flotillas on the 22nd, so we'll probably combine the two maybe. They can tie up together for a couple hours and they can run off.
What is the difference between the flotilla and the boat parade?
About 2 hours of that answer. No, the flotillas where boats get together and just tie up and there. Boat parade is we're gonna be, people are decorating the boats and they're going around the lake a couple of times near dusk and then there'll be a Jimmy Buffett party.
So it's truly parade. It will be similar to the golf cart parade where there are prizes.
There is prizes actually, yeah. Like the fastest swimmer, things like that. Mark, I have a question for you, Steve Sands, Flip Court. I heard you mention that on the spirit of cooperation between the Lakes Committee, the CDD for the quarry, and I think you said also for the FAG. Are you including, for example, the Quarry Golf Club as well in terms of conversations?
Well, the Quarry Golf Club really doesn't have a membership in the lakes. Essentially the lakes are owned by the two CDDs, and the two CDDs are responsible for weed management. So I'm not sure what the golf club would have to do with this.
And again, don't disagree on your comment. My response will be, if the golf club is aware and you're aware, for example, what chemicals are being put down and what they should be doing in the environmentally sensitive areas as it relates to the lakes, because some of the holes butt right up to the lakes. Yeah, I guess it might be a good idea to include.
We instituted lake management was here last year, and we talked about many issues, and one of the questions was, is there anything that the golf community is doing that could be detrimental to our lakes? And historically, this has happened in some communities, but nowadays, the approved chemicals, are much safer, and they don't believe Solitude Lake Management does not think that anything the golf club does here has any detrimental effect on the lakes.
And said differently, Mark, is it correct to say that Solitude did a water quality test and the water quality test actually came back very good?
Yeah.
Which was a little bit surprising because I think a number of us expected to see some impact from fertilizers in the lake, and actually the water quality came back very strong.
I'll just make one other comment. I actually just set up a meeting between our superintendent and also the possibly the Lakes Committee would want to be part of that meeting. But the whole intent is in a spirit of cooperation so that each entities totally understands the expectations of one another. So that's again why I was and that even though there's no ownership by the Quarry Golf Club, that at least there'll be some conversation between.
And perhaps Solitude is going to be back here this year and we can do a follow-up study and we can get them involved as well.
Some of the cooperation like this is just to get the golf balls back. Quite a number of them there in the lakes. Donated a couple more today.
I think it would. Mark, if I could just add a couple things. So Steve, to your point, the Quarry Board has already had a joint meeting with the CED. It was, again, advertised or noticed so that the entire board was there, the entire CED board was there, and they had a workshop and they talked specifically about that partnership. Who's responsible for what, who's supposed to be doing this. And they have another meeting, as Mark alluded to, coming up February 9th, in which they're doing the same thing. So probably similar to what you were mentioning off of, the board is already doing here with the CDD. And Mark, one thing so people are clearly understanding, when Mark mentioned that the Quarry community is not spending any money in the lakes, that's correct. But you as owners are spending money in the lakes because you pay the CDD, and the CDD spends $75,000 to $100,000 every year maintaining weeds in the lakes and things like that. So indirectly, you are paying for those weeds and things like that. I do want to give the CDD credit that they are doing that and spending that money in addition to other things that they do in the lake. So even though the QCA is not spending the money, the CDD does spend that money on your behalf.
Nancy, the CDD is everything lakes and preserves. That's what that actually goes for.
Mark, anything? Thank you. All right. At this time, we're going to talk about access control. John Strike is going to be leading the presentation. But if some of you were at my general manager cocktails, you'll hear me say this again, just to set the table, if you will, for access control. In the quarry and most HOAs, I don't want to generalize, but most HOAs, there's a large difference between security, safety, and access control. And that is sort of the guideline in which the board is charged with controlling. Security and safety came up down at our neighbors down in Port Royal, in that they advertised that they had big cars driving around and said security. Crime happened. The person who had the crime committed sued the neighborhood and actually set precedent here in the state of Florida that, HOAs, if they say security, they have to provide security. And that's where all this is coming from, that case law that was established, I think, about 8 years ago. It's fairly recent. So when we talk about access control, we are not providing security. We're not providing safety as you relate to intruders or things like that. What we're providing is access control, and we're charged with providing access control at entry points, meaning the 2 access points at the front gate, the rear gate, pedestrian gates, things like that. So as John goes through his presentation, it's really important to approach it with that look, in that if they're an intruder on the property and they're doing something to your personal property, the best thing you can do, dial 911. We are not equipped to handle face-to-face interactions with intruders or with people breaking the law. If they're on your property, I know, Scott, you had some things up on Facebook, how you had some intruder or trespass in your yard. Don't call the QCA. Call 911. Get Collier County Sheriff's involved as quickly as you can. I honestly am not coming out there to confront an intruder, nor Tom Neeslip or John Strider. That's why Collier County Sheriffs have guns and they are trained to do this. So I can't stress enough, if there's something happening that's nefarious on your property, you see it on our common property, call 911. I cannot stress that enough. 911 is your answer. With that, we would like to talk to you about an access control presentation. John.
Thanks, Scott. I want to thank everybody that helped us work on this, because this is not a little task. We went through and looked at lots of stuff, both looking at our community, but actually researching online, talking to professionals in the field, finding a lot of new information. We've come to something we're calling trespassing prevention through environmental design. I'm going to paraphrase some of this because it's long and it'll take us forever to get through, so bear with me. We're using strategy that uses architecture design, landscaping, and management of physical spaces to reduce trespassing and influence trespassers' behaviors. For example, we want to stop e-bikers, teens from coming into our community. It's an easy in and out to get fishing access. We don't need prison walls. We need to change the risk-reward relationship. Right now, fishing is fun. They like it, so they want to come in. And the risk of getting caught is low, and there's no barrier. So we're going to show you what we're going to do. This plan is smarter, multi-layered, and we'll slow them down and make our community too much work to enter. I want to walk you through the plan. First thing is a new term. It's called defensive landscape. It's the pain barrier. Our mature collusia, if anybody's looked at them, they start out and they're 4 feet tall and a foot wide. In 2 years, they're 6 feet tall and 2 feet 2.5 feet wide. In 3 years, they're 8 feet tall, so they grow quickly. Well, we want to couple that with defensive, which is really something where you're interplanting thorny bushes. And examples would be bougainvillea, blue agave, other thorny bushes. These type of plants provide the pain barrier for trespassers. It's a smart factor. One of the things about our hedging, they grow, they self-repair, they get bigger every year. It becomes, and I'm going to show you some pictures in a minute, they really become a very nice barrier. Fencing is part of the multi-layered strategy. A good hedge is cost effective. It's a good balancing point with our plan. You know, if we look at fencing the entire 7.5 miles around our community, you folks would have a heart attack how much it's going to cost us. It is really, it's too much. And it really creates, we're not going to solve it with that. Because believe it or not, these kids can come in, they're going to find a way. But we did do some research on what type of fencing would be best. We're going to share that with you. Things like it needs to be at least 6 feet tall, chain link will work. We're going to get into that in a few minutes. So let's keep moving. The thing we found is psychological deterrence. The kids come in, they don't feel like anybody's trying to stop our plan of using hedging, inclusive, and then the defense planning. So create a perception of a more impenetrable barrier. I mean, the first time you go around and get cut out coming into our neighborhood, it's not going to be fun. Teens are also more deterred by the idea of being watched. And so we're adding the idea of cellular trail cameras. We found that is a big deal. Kids don't want to be photographed coming in or out. They don't want to see us doing stuff like that. Now, I want to be very clear. This is a legalese issue. Video recordings can only be used to deter trespassers and provide. Cameras are recording, but not actively monitoring. Very big distinction. We know that they're coming in. We do get notified, but we're not sitting at a desk trying to monitor or spend money doing it. We'll update our signage. Today it's blah and blah. We're going to show you something a lot more strongly worded, and we're going to replace the signage and do something. And it's going to highlight the thing about we are going to call the sheriff, and you are going to get a citation. I want to walk you through the map of the quarry. It's hard to see, it's not very big. And I'm just going to start you up in the upper left-hand corner. In the upper left-hand corner, you see 2 areas that are purple. Those arrows that are purple, that means it's preserve and lake. Now, what we've found about preserve and lake, they're natural barriers. We have found no incidents where the kids are coming through the swamp and bringing their bikes through that area. They're just not doing it. So we feel those areas, you know, if you think about fencing and spending a lot of money, we're not going to spend a lot of money out there. We don't need to. And as you go across the north end of the preserve, same way. As you go back on the right side of the thing, you see that big long purple line again. It's preserve again. We're just not having any problem with kids coming in or out there. Then we cross across, and Mark mentioned it, Boulder Lake. No, they're not swimming in. And then we get to our front gate, that's sort of bottom right. And that's the gates are the key issue areas. They're coming in around the gates, and I'm going to share one other area we're having a problem with, but the gates are important to our plan to fix it. Then you go, if everybody knows a golf course, along Limestone Trail, there's an area that's green. You see those 2 arrows in the sort of center bottom? That's the golf course. We don't own that property. It's owned by the golf course, and they are crossing golf course property now to get in. And then we've got another preserve over to the left. That's that little preserve behind the retail area. Again, we've not seen any instances where they're coming through that area. So, and I'll say something. There really are 3 gates. Third one is man, and that's Heritage Bay. And there isn't an easy way to do that because there's a long time agreement. Scott, help me with what's called the CCNRs or something.
It's a PUD agreement. So when the 2 communities were developed as one, you need 2 means of egress out of each community. We serve as a second means of egress out of Heritage Bay.
And so It's one I don't like. I don't know a way to control it right now. So we're still thinking on that one. We don't see the kids coming in that way right now. They're coming in other places. So I'll say that's still an open issue for me. I want to talk about other communities because we did do some research to look at that. We talked to Harry today. They've added a rover. The rover convinced he does a good job keeping people off the golf course. You can't catch speed bumps. He's not having any effect at all. So anybody thinks you're going to hire somebody to keep them, the kids are fast and they've all got fast bikes. They have no plans to add anything. Esplanade, same issue. They've actually signed up to the golf rangers. Keeping them off the golf course, but they're not being able to keep them out of the community. Greyhawk, same issue. In fact, they are the one that is calling Collier County Sheriff's Office at CCSO. But they have no plan to change anything about active control. That's the only thing they do. Okay, I want to jump into this is the actual 26 assessment. So we do these periodically through the year, the formal process we go through, where we actually go out with our boots on and walk around somewhere through the jungle and try to see what the kids are doing. We also started out talking to our access control officer because they know and they tell us where they're getting in and how they're getting in. We have had several owners complain about youth trespassers. Last year, we implemented the strategy on Collier County. We had 28 visits by Collier County Sheriff's Office, 22 citations were issued. It sends a powerful message to these kids because mom and dad don't want to find out they're going to be paying $200 or $300 for their kid trespass. So it is one of our best ways for future trespass. We also found out the kids are kids. But we really haven't found out they've really done anything to vandalize or steal anything to this point. Now, if it has, somebody had reported. I think it's always a concern and risk, but it hasn't happened to our knowledge. Front gate, the first thing we looked at. We found in 25 was easy to pass the front gate. It had holes galore. Last year, we shorted up on a bunch of pollution filter gaps. There is one that still exists. If you want to flip, you just go to the pictures, they're always more powerful. The next day. We went out there in January. This is just outside our front gates on the right side as you come in. There's a simple pass through they've got, and they get to this drawing of this picture on the right where they can walk right along. It's a wing of Boulder Lake right into the community. And honestly, our beautiful hedge we got there, the guard can't see it. They walk right by the guards. I'm getting in. So this gap has been filled. And it is filled on both sides. So now it's way more difficult to come in there. We're going to talk about some additional information about the gate in the file. We'll get back. I'll get back. We will do this again with the access control office. You know the back gate is probably the easiest for them to get in and out. It's a combination of a lot of things. It's just there's a lot of space back there. There's good access to our from our street from Collier Boulevard. They can go down Collier Boulevard to the end of where Esplanade gate is. They can find any hole they can get through. They can go around our gates. I'm going to show you some pictures in a second. But one of the things they brought out, they see juvenile tailgating our own owners through the gate. They said they see them coming through. And one of the things we came to is we also heard so many complaints from you about owners seeing somebody come up on their rear bumper and follow you through. And you know, we don't want you to get in an altercation. I actually had it happen last week. I stopped, I got out, or you know, not the smartest guy in the room, but I told the guy no, go to the front gate. He blew it out, he turned around and went away. Well, my wife had somebody last year who follows her to our home. So we can't have that. We got to solve. And the right answer is we need traffic. You got to go back to the traffic. It'll be slower, but it's the only way you're going to stop. So I'm going to describe next slide what we're going to do. So what happens here is this is sort of standard face of the gate. The arm when you come up will be in the up position. You pull up to the main gate. the track pulls behind you. We're gonna add a bollard and chain on the left side because there's enough room for a biker to get by if we don't put that there. So we're gonna add that over there so they can, don't slow the gate at the bike. And then when you get into the trap, it closes, front gate open, just your side, and you go through. It should effectively stop. And it should stop people from tailgating in. Because you won't be able to get your gate open until that back one closes. Okay. I want to talk to you more about the back gate, understand some of the issues we have. This is the back gate. I'm standing on the golf course. You know what a path is as you're going out the back gate right before you get it goes over to the maintenance facility. And I'm taking a picture, and if you look behind, sort of, there's our wind thing. Our back gate house sits right there. If you look real closely, in front of that two arrows, one, two, hedging we put on last year, a nice little hedge. And guess what happens when the water gets low? They're kind of right. It's easy. And they're totally nothing to stop, zero. What we need to do is block from our gate to golf club maintenance gate. Gotta get blocked. We're recommending we're gonna do it with pollution and defensive plans. Go ahead, move to the next. I want to talk about limestone trail. In 22, we added over 300 pollution to the head, and we have a very nice, if you pay attention, starting out from our front gate, marching down past coastline court of head. Then you get to the golf course, and it's almost non-existent. I just took one picture. I couldn't take 10 for them. It's a sieve. Sorry, don't worry. This is 17 hole. They're easily passing on to 17 and crossing into over the 18th tee box on the coastline court. Should have that picture set. I had meetings with all the people at the golf club about 10 days ago. And they are in line to support us with this and to do their side. I met with Dave Thomas, and met with the senior, who's their maintenance guy, and they are going to undertake the same strategy we are as far as planning and trying to block this area. One of the better luck I had is I actually took him up on this hill. That's so this is end of, I don't know if they've come down, but the end of coastline court. There's a little circle as you're right up against the golf course. It is absolutely wide open. There's nothing stopping coming off the golf course on the coastline court. It's easy. So they're willing to put on golf course property a pollution defensive hedge from you can see the one on the right side over to ours, which is a good hedge on the left side. We have a couple little gaps we can observe. We can still see evidence when you go out there. I showed your senior where we found an area there where they had broken a couple branches, and it's not thick. They will try to get through.
John, I have just a quick question for you. As you're talking about the golf course, one of the areas of vulnerability that I heard was near the memory care center. That
Well, no, I'm going to do that. So the memory care unit we know has access from as you go from 16 to 17, and they are going to do that next year. I didn't get a picture because it was their land. It is part of their planning to do that as well. So
because that seems very open and
absolutely
they come right up from the second tee box.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Quarry Drive West, and this is adjacent to Collier Boulevard on our back gate. 22 we installed 720 inch here along Quarry Drive, over 30 grand. It's a nice hedge now. You go look at it, I was looking, it's almost 3 foot thick. That's feet wide, it's about 6.5 feet tall, and in order to decide, we cut it down because when you cut it down, it's a landscape person, but I know it gets thicker. Stays sturdier, so we want to do that. We still need improvement. Last year we did add some and fill some gaps. We got a new problem on Quarry Drive. go to the next slide. We have some plant failures. We want to show you a long section ahead. Many of you may notice it already. It's about 300 feet. The hedge is failing. I mean, and right now it's easy to get through. And we plan on replacing this. We're working with the landscape team because some of this stuff sits between the two of us. Some of it is busy landscape. We'll figure it out, but we're working together on this. We're planning on replacing this, but the other side of this one is owners that live down there around Nickel Ridge. And if you could look sort of through this picture, you can actually see the building construction. It'll give us a nice visual barrier and a noise barrier that we don't have with this kind of hedge. It's terrible. So we want to put the pollution there and get a nice thick hedge. Okay, moving into the action plan. So again, remember we talked about a multi-layered strategy. We want it difficult for the kids to get in. We are always evaluating. This is not something you can stop and do. It's one of the things about these cameras. Remember, we look at them to get information. We can figure out where they're coming in. If they've got a new, because they could change their MO. We know from last year to this year they're using 17 now. Wide scale fencing does not make economic sense. It gets into the millions of dollars. Although fencing adjacent to our gate or to our gate does more consideration. It creates a perception of a more impenetrable barrier, and we think should be considered. I'm going to recommend here as reasonable, appropriate, and cost effective. We talked about what's funded and not funded, what I have in money within our OEC for access control. The board also has the liberty of deciding other things. I can't do that. I have to work within the budget I was given. So enhanced psychological deterrence for the park. First of all, there's two numbers you can call. You can call to a non-emergency situation. You just want to report you see a trespasser. You can call the line for non-emergency to the Pine County Sheriff, put it down there. If you're in any other situation where you feel threatened or otherwise, call 911. Simple enough. We don't want our staff engaged. They may go out and help locate them, but we don't want them involved because the worst thing that can happen is one of these kids take a spell on an e-bike and goes into a pond or has an accident. We don't want to be liable. We want the sheriff to handle. We're going to add trail cameras on Lake Two Rocks. Trail cameras are safe and replace them. We do have some for reception so we can monitor and see if they're coming. Again, video recording is only used to serve and provide post-incident review. They are not actively being fined. We've got 30 signs out here today. If you look at them, they're really nice, blue and little. That's not our committee. We want something bright red and stand out. So this is an example of what we think the sign will look like. It's one video recording and use. Sheriff will be notified and citations will be issued. And the little legalese on top. Survey continued. We are funding to fix the one gap we saw with the, and that's in process. The gaps been filled. We just haven't put in the boarding bush yet. Backgate is funded. Changing the trap system will take us some time because we're going to have to get it reprogrammed. We're going to have to get the signage, but it will happen. Gaps along Courtney Drive, again, will be filled in. Any gaps we've got a couple, three. And then we need to have that new hedge at 300 feet. One of the other areas is the hedge from the pedestrian gate at our back gate to the quarry maintenance facility. That's going to happen. Just got to work with landscape and us have to do a little magic on where to figure it out. Limestone Trail, now Limestone Trail is front property. And we're gonna take a few little holes we have in Limestone Trail, with defensive planning. Again, where golf club has agreed with the strategy and will help us on 17, 18, and the area over by, I guess it's 17 P by that described. It's a big step to get them involved. I mean, before they turn their nose up at it. Fortunately, they had an incident about 3 weeks ago with a bunch of bikers on the golf course on 16 and 18 and woke everybody up. Okay, sort of bad, but good for us. Ford Drive adjacent to Collier, again, I guess I jumped ahead, that's already covered. Fencing, I want to talk about fencing because I think a lot of you expressed your concern about fencing. I want to first talk about chain link versus aluminum. Most people think, well, put up chain link, it's cheap and you can do a lot of it. But it's really, when you read and study, it's not a concern at all. It creates a physical barrier and it's easy to bypass. And I can remember at 15 years old, a 6-foot fence isn't going to even slow me down. I put my toe in it and I take home. And these kids, you're not. Chain link also is, because of the way it goes up, you can crawl even if you go a little higher. So it's still, even though you say, well, I put an 8-footer up, it's going to get better, it really doesn't get better. Aluminum fencing with vertical pickets is the way to go. Straight up. And it's difficult to climb. And one of the things we even looked at was looking at finials or spikes on the top to make it even a little more impressive. Chain link can be cut with little bolt tabs. I'm in 2 minutes. Way different on, they got to bring tools to get to the other. Just, I mean, real tools. So it's also, when you look at chain link and then jump ahead to the next stage, it's kind of aesthetic appeal. I don't think a community like us should have chain. So I keep them down. Durability, when we study durability of that, chain link starts to sag after 3 to 4 years. If you want to go around and look, it just does. It ruts, doesn't. It needs to be painted at some point down the line, but that could be 10 or 12 years. It goes a long time. So we've eliminated chain link, and we just don't think if we're gonna ever do fence, it's not chain link. I want to talk about what we think the future, and I'm very clear about this. It's not in budget for this year. It's something we'll have to decide and discuss for next year. We're going to do all the planning and get it secured around the perimeter this year. We're going to get the gate fixed this year. We're looking at doing several areas. I have 4 listed at the bottom of the page. The main gate, east side of the main gate, and that was the one I had the picture of with the top one. I think it'd be better to have a fence going from that big gate down to the water. That would be a nice, they can't get in anywhere if we do that. And that would extend out to water. The main gate, west side, create a visual barrier going back inclusive. We're not going to go all the way down the road, that's too much money, but we'll create that would be the next one I think we'd want to look at. Back gate, yeah, similar problem on the back gate. South side of the back gate, there's that pond reserved to the one side. They can get around it. We plan defensive planning. It will help a bit. But if they really want to get in, they can probably go in water an inch or 2 to get around. And the back gate, I really think it'd really be nice. And these are nice to have, don't have to happen this year. They may never happen. I'm not promising that. Would be changing or putting in front of the landscape barrier we're putting up that goes from the back gate pedestrian to the Quarry Golf Club maintenance facility. I would like that. I'd be really like that. So, in summary, we are getting bids on these things. It would be for future discussion with the board, depending on how this year goes, if we can don't know. We're certainly not going to wide scale, spend it. Why don't they get any money? If you have.
I have a couple of questions about the back gate.
Yep.
Do we have, the maintenance and service vehicles, pulling trailers, entering the community through the back gate now?
Can I have the mic? Yes, certain ones can. We would just have to redirect them, such as Vision Landscape to use that, just only to cut down on the way down the front gate. And then any vehicles that owners would have bought a pass for, which should be very few, unless the owners are pulling a boat.
That was my next question. They just need to be informed to go to the front gate.
And it would be single vehicles only, no trailers would be allowed in the track.
We might want to address the signs inside the back gate, already 7 signs there. You know, and we're gonna add some more. You know, it's hard to process all those signs. That worry about me for me.
Yeah, I agree. One of my comments, things I've already said, we just have to make it very clear that no visitors. I know we have the signs, but I think they need to be released. We must use the gate. And I'm worried we want to get, but if you're not, then you're only registered
And in Spanish, probably.
So let me just say it this way, one of the things I think we have now. I was there, I saw it happen a couple times this past week, where they come up to the gate, they try to go to the left side, which is. And some of them have passes, and it works like, perfect, protocol, so bang, right through. But then you get those others, and they're out there pressing buttons and constantly backing people up and that, it's not working very well, and I just wonder if we should rethink it. Allowing there at all, it's only people that have guest time. Or is that just too restricted? Push everybody else through the front gate.
You know, just an FYI, if you put your GPS into the beach club proper, it takes you to the back.
Oh, thank you. You're right. And I don't know if somebody told me they tried to change it, can't get it changed, you know what I mean?
Well, what they tell you to do is use the address for the gate. And then you have to put second address into the, yes, because if you live in that in the property.
So I go to my.
Can you go to the microphones up, please?
As the gentleman approaches a microphone, on a positive note, actually the algorithms are starting to pick up our front gate address. One owner commented that she entered into her car GPS and did route her to the front gate. So it is learning that that's the preferred address, but.
I would like to add the Italian perspective to this entire situation. Your due diligence, John, is fantastic. But the perimeter is not just the perimeter of the quarry. Once Heritage Bay has access to our property, the perimeter is around the quarry and Heritage Bay. You can build a wall around the quarry 10 feet tall. And there's always that option coming through Heritage Bay. So I think there should be a cooperative effort between us and Heritage Bay to solve that problem.
So, John just said in the presentation, he isn't there. The reality is, I said, the reality is the kids that are coming in are not coming in the Heritage Bay, they're not coming in through the front gate. They're sneaking in all the access points. And every time we've seen kids and we've seen them, I'm not going to say it's exclusively that, Joe. It is the vast majority of coming in right around, there's vegetation around the back gate and along coastline and 17, almost always. So yes, is it possible? Absolutely. But we know they're not coming in from back in the reserve behind us at the end of Collier. And we know they're not coming in. We don't see them coming in from Heritage. I mean, the ones I think John did a really nice job outlining. If we took care of that, would take care of the vast majority of the problem.
Do we have pictures of where they're coming from? They can actually walk in from Heritage Bay. You would know the difference at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No, but again, we have really no reports of people coming in at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Or whatever.
No, I'm not speaking hypothetical. We're trying to deal with realism. because we're spending money. And then we're trying to be judicious about how we handle this. And again, the vast majority of times, these are basically innocent kids coming in to fish. They are trespassing, they shouldn't be here, we all know that, we're dealing with the sheriff has been very responsive to us. But most of the time they're coming in, all these points that John illustrated. And one of the points about the sheriff's office, we did have a sheriff's officer was in for another purpose. We were talking about trespassing a little bit. Scott and I had a conversation. One thing they're going to do, which will be very helpful, and this was actually Scott's suggestion, was they're going to send something out to all the schools, and specifically the middle school, because that's the age of most of these kids, right before spring break, right before summer break, and right before Christmas break, reminding them that all these communities are private property and anything to do with trespass. So at least we're trying to get proactive, and they were very responsive. They thought that was a great idea, and I thank Scott for thinking outside the box a little bit of trying to get in front of this.
It's the joy of being a child, right? You always want to look for the things that you're not supposed to do and want something innovative, right? So for kids.
Situation is, I don't think that's not really good. It's just for, yes, I do think that the situation is, but I think that, Luther called coastline down between 17 and we go to memory care.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to write something into the bylaws or something that we have orders making a path to go to CVS or the warehouse or whatever it's called now. Creating that path, that's part of the problem. Sure, it's a very small percent, but I do know that actually is really.
I don't understand what we're saying. Actually, in the community.
Yes, just walking and taking a shortcut to go to CVS. Yes, so it's a great point. I've filled that gap at the end of the coastline court 3 times on 3 different sets of plantings, like every 6 months. And the reason we're putting up the trail cams is there's going to be one on the inside of coastline court and then 2 on the outside of coastline. That road is there, Limestone Trail. And yeah, want to identify who the people are that are going through there. And you're right, they just planted 3 rows of looseness across them down. It might be even guests of orders or something. They see the wall, CVS is right there. Yeah, so wherever they're trying to get to. Yeah, and they cut it.
It's the very fair point. We've seen it happen. We're helping you make the path, unfortunately.
Walk with whatever it is. Encourage them if you're listening. We're spreading it on coastal. Don't walk your dog there.
Doggy dormant, so
The path is there, and people and outside have to go for it.
that's true. Any other questions, comments, feedback on this? Okay, John, thank you very much. Exhaustive work and more.
The wellness center class guidelines discussion.
This just, I'm going to lead this as I lead the rec committee as well, and also involved in the recreation committee. And this comes to it because there has been some requests and with their recognition that we do not have a clear policy for people who want to use this facility to host their own, I'd say, classes. Okay. There is precedent. We do have some homeowners that do, whether it's yoga classes or centric classes and things like that. But there is no set policy on how to go about doing it and what the guidelines would be for us to approve or disapprove such things. Okay. So given that, I went to the rec committee. The rec committee has agreed to these following working principles. And so the principles the rec committee has put together, and ultimately this is something I'm going to work approval on. Because the rec committee alone should not be dictating this. The recommendations would be for approval for homeowners to host classes or events here in the wellness center. The sessions must be open to all Quarry residents. The sessions will not be open to the general public. Part of the logic for this is we do not want the question at hand is we don't want people running a business out of our facilities. That's really what it comes down to. We love the idea of offering services to Quarry members, but we don't want people running a business out of our facilities. So that's where we're going with this. The session frequency shall not be greater than 1 time a week. Nominal fee will be allowed, it's not to exceed $10 per participant, which is very standard for any of the classes offered, even by our vendor partners. The instructors should be certified and licensed as appropriate. Many times there is a certification for their teaching, but it's not always the case. The instructors should carry insurance holding the QCA harmless. That does exist today, again, for people who are offering, a lot of these programs. They already, it is standard for what we request from them. We just want to document that. We will not set up the wellness center facilities. The instructors must complete any preparation necessary and restore it back to the norm. And the use of common equipment will be permitted as it is today. For example, if you're going to host a yoga, the exercise balls, the mats, the weights are permitted to be used. The core will not advertise any of these sessions. So what you do on your own is fine, but we don't want to be participants in these. The sessions will be scheduled through the wellness director, who knows the master schedule of everything that we're doing. And the requests to offer these sessions are made to the wellness director, which is Lisa, who must approve it. But if she approves it, it's then she has to get solicit the approval from the general manager and the recreation committee. The reason we do that is if Lisa does, if she does not want to approve it, she is not the bad guy in the face of homeowners. And secondly, because she approves it, we want to make sure there's a second set of eyes understanding what we're approving. This was a long discussion among the rec committee. It probably was 45 minutes to an hour, even after we've seen it in advance, to make sure we got all this right. Anyway, this is what we're proposing. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments from the board. No.
So I have a question about it. It says the quarry will not advertise session offerings. How does that differ from a third party vendor who's coming streaming about TVs out there, making them aware that there's a yoga class?
So the reality is we don't. We talked about this a lot. We don't really advertise. That's not to say it's not on the calendar. These events are on the calendar. We can sign up. But we don't want to get involved in putting together. Remember, if we're doing some of it today, then we might pull back. For the most part, it's very just general knowledge of when the classes are being involved.
So then one other question. What if somebody wanted to make available to homeowners, because this has come up in the past where I think it was some floral arranging class,
right,
and they wanted to use one of the rooms here as a done session.
Right, and I'll answer him. The other half is true that. For a couple of number one, these are very specific. This is for the wellness center in this building. They still do have access to use the rooms in the HOA office, each club. But Scott, if you can address that, some of the differences with the floral arrangements.
Sure. In the floral arrangement, one that came up probably about, I'm not sure actually the beach club was completed at that point. But what had happened is a homeowner was hosting outside folks as well as quarry homeowners, and it's the rules stipulate there's no outside people coming in to use the quarry. And so we asked that homeowner to stop doing it. The answer. I think Tom, to your point, if there was a homeowner that came to me with, hey, I want to decorate or teach floral arrangements, I would think one of the club rooms would be appropriate. There's a sink right there. I know one of the times when they were doing the flower arrangements here, the sink's flooded in the ladies' restroom because somebody left it running or whatever, and they had to clean it up. So I mean, there's that part of it too.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, the most important one I think I saw there that I think I'm looking over the shoulder here is insurance. Making sure that somebody's in here doing classes, but we're not going to get liable and having a very serious liability. And making sure that we have documentation so we know before they start, you got what you need, and we actually put a date on it. It expires in June, and we're going to ask for your early.
And number one, we do that today. So it's been in practice already in session. Number two, it is actually written in our CC that we are homeowners.
Specify a level.
We did not. Steve says,
As I read your report,
this the microphone, Steve.
all right. As I read the report bullet,
It reads, not only people will be allowed not to exceed 10 hours per participant. I'm assuming that's what whoever the guest is, is the instructor.
And to be clear, purposely, the Scott, his team, the QCA does not get involved in those payments. Those are the direct cash from participant to instructor, because we don't want to involve.
I think so. Do we collect anything from the instructor? As a community?
Typically, no. The vendor partners that use the rooms, Raju and Isha, yes, we collect a really nominal rent from them. The instructors that are using the rooms, don't get.
Just a thought, maybe there should be another fee to the instructor. So Steve, that point's actually come up about 4 years ago when the recreational or wellness committee got together. And we looked at various models for providing classes. And almost unanimously, I think Jerry, you may have been on that committee, but it's almost unanimous that the committee went away from charging for those, call it classes, dance fit or whatever they may be, because you're just charging yourself. In other words, it goes from one pocket to the other. So the idea there is that make it as reasonable as possible. We don't want to have employees. That's number two, is we don't want to take on an additional burden. And really make it as reasonable as possible for the participants who are using the classes. So that's why we avoid charging the instructors for that.
I really like the idea that home say genuine interest, and they want to do it. This is really intended to clarify. We're going to justify who we approve.
So, we have a lot of center else on sports. Yeah, similar. Sports.
No, that's a very good question. That it's never come to us. Right? So no one's really come and said, I want to provide an offer. We do have pros on tennis and pickle. That do their thing. They both offer then private lessons beyond just the open clinics. Quite frankly, for the most, except for the private clinics are a lot more money there. For the most part, they actually do things. It's never really come to us, someone saying, I want to use these sports to do this, that, or the other. If it did, probably similar, very, very similar to this. I think we have to look at some of the nuances between out there and in here, but and just, because you said that, it might be relevant. I think this came up 1 or 2 board meetings ago. If a homeowner wants to host an event, a social event on tennis courts, and we hold those events, and we hold courts for those events, we actually follow very similar guidelines on what we would allow or not allow to do that. The number one has to be okay. So we have people say, we do this every Tuesday night. I want to reserve 4 courts to do it. Is it open every day? If it's not open to everybody, interesting. And then we exactly because if you want to do it, welcome to do it, because we go get your own restrictions. But if we're going to hold courts in advance, it all follows the same guideline, which is if it's average, there we do. For example, if it's Davis Cup in tennis, it's a big event. Pickleball championships are going to be a big one. They will be advertised. They'll be open to everybody. Anybody that's signed up. That's the whole. So I make a motion to approve the Wellness Center session request policy as on the screen now, and I just summarized.
Yes. Harry has a second. Further discussion from the board? Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, I just want to, any committee initiatives or updates that weren't on the agenda?
Okay, Finance Committee, we met last week. We're in the process of proposing fiscal 2025. As you recall, we rolled over $44,000. That was the estimated profit their budget based on results first 8 months, which was through orders. Right now, where we stand for the full year, we're probably between $80,000 and $85,000. So we haven't hit the rollover that we had budgeted. Both things have come up. Some repairs, anticipated repair expense for pumps. Food and beverage didn't quite meet the expectations, and there were a few other items. But as I said, we're finalizing everything. Next meeting, the annual meeting, I believe, full report. We have full results finalized. Next, the insurance committee. We also met last week. The insurance committee, Scott, myself, and the broker. And we did receive another year of good news there. Insurance is roughly $315,000 a year. We budgeted a 5% increase. It looks like it's going to be about a 3% increase. They're still working on fine-tuning some things, but at the end of the day, it's going to be good news. So similar to last year, property insurance is going down. Unfortunately, liability is going up. Compensation committee will probably meet after, we'll meet after we have the audited results, see how we did versus all of the objectives. That meeting will probably happen probably early towards the end of February. That's where we are in terms of those three committees.
Modification?
Significant report. They just meet monthly. Dates are always posted, and the community is invited to attend if they'd like.
Strategic Planning Committee is preparing to do a comprehensive survey to guide the strategic planning process, similar to the one done back in 2019. And the Lakes Committee is working with the CPD in regards to the issue.
Renee has the Eco Committee and Landscaping, Eco-Friendly Committee, I should say. I know that they have an event coming up later on in February, another recycling event, and then landscaping, another sugarcane mosaic virus, planting grasses probably. No, I should say, over the next 10 days, all of your yards are going to turn brown. There's nothing we can do about it. More water is not going to help it. The only thing that will help it is warm weather. So I apologize in advance. I'll get calls. It's not necessarily sugarcane mosaic virus that moved in 10 days. It takes years, but that'll be that way. Asset management.
Yes, thinking the board chairman was here. Our next meeting is January 28th. In case you'd like something to do at 3 o'clock, just come over and we'll talk to you about our assets. But I do again want to say kudos to Scott and his teams. We evaluate on a weekly basis different types of conditions, and they are in minutes. So thank you again.
Recreation.
Teams galore. We're in head of season, so I think there were 6, but I think it's actually 7 tennis teams in full action. There are 6 pickleball teams in full action. Wonderful. Courts are busy on both sides. Bocce night, Bocce Joe, thank you very much. It's always one of the most social events we have. There are, I might count over 250 people that are involved.
326.
326.
That sucks. Can I bring something up pertaining to that?
Sure.
The Bashi family has launched a Pat ice soccer about a week and a half ago. And Pat, for the last decade, has been doing tireless internet work. And without it, there's no way that 326 people are going to be playing bocce. And with Scott's help and Lauren's help, we're planning on March 1st a luncheon, memorial luncheon for Pat. And another connected thing that I will talk about is I've been told or people come and tell me that we would like to show a little more memorial appreciation by planting a tree in past memory by the bocce courts. And also a plaque at the bottom of the tree. And I was advised I need the approval of the board. So it's in your hands.
Thank you. Certainly Pat will be a big loss, and we're all sorry to hear that news. His contributions to me are endless with this bocce program. I said many times, one of the best things that we do here, and I know it's far more than Pat, Joe, I know you and others would put time into that extensively, so. We'll take under consideration, you're not having a conversation about the memorial for Pat.
It's an indication of how difficult it was. We have Joe Cavalier and his wife, what's it? That has worked tirelessly, looking for professional help with the funeral. And they work tirelessly, Joe and his wife. And I think they need a little appreciation.
And the last comments about the
That was great, by the way.
about the bocce night is we do have a server going and offering drinks. I just want to encourage people to use that more and more.
Well, that's my last.
Well, Scott and I had this conversation several times. I push it really hard for it. Scott keeps saying, "I'm the only selling drinks tonight" or something. So all I'll say is, don't come with drinks. Get them when you're here. The more drinks people are buying, the more service we will offer. If there's enough people drinking, we'll offer food. Right now, the other thing I want to encourage is we do have a buffet, which seems to be working very well. That when you're done with bocce, we've got the whole buffet set up, which is way better than Allen Park. You can go, you can sit down. I've been to it a couple times, and food's phenomenal. So let's make sure this turns into an entire social night, not just a game of bocce.
Thank you, Tom. John, what is your experience committee?
I want to talk a second about our newcomer navigations committee. This is a really bright bunch of people that really thought through new people that are coming to our community, trying to welcome. You know, when we were all coming here 10 or 15 years ago, we were all new and all sort of grew up together. So now they come in, we got our established friends, and they need a need for this committee, and they're finding ways to create a navigation people that have similar likes to theirs, based on what they are interested in, and try to guide them through. If they want to play pickleball, if they want to be involved in X or Y, they want to join the club, these people are going to do it. I think it's a wonderful idea. And in fact, this time we're even thinking about, is there a way to expand this to offer more? Because it's really well put together. I can give you all the things they're doing, but they are having a bunch of things with these people socially to get together and do things. So excited about it. It's got a good future. I mean, and you think about it, it only affects about 50 people a year. It's 50 new homeowners coming to our community, being happy, and it sends a good message about us. So love it. Fiber, we are getting ready to send an RFP out to 4 providers, including the 2 of them now, 2 more. This is something we'll see how this goes. I mean, we're under a quasi restriction, but we're working through it to see if we can make it happen sooner. Can't promise it. We'll tell you more as we get this RFP back, probably a couple months before I can give you any information on it. We're also working on a charitable events policy. It's not crystal clear how we work here, and we could come in and, so we're going to try to come up with something that's fair to everybody, and that, we can't do everybody's charity, but we got to find the sort of how do we filter it. So we're working on that. We spent a lot of time with Scott on food and beverage. Scott gives us really good presentations, and we see stuff like the surveys. Sometimes you get to say, well, 500 people there, and we only got back 40 surveys. So we're trying to get involved in that to make sure we're getting good sampling, getting good data, so we can make decisions. Are concerned about, we can see about 40% of our homeowners participate little or none at baseball. They just don't show. So we're trying to say, I know we don't make money on it, but I'd like to give them a chance. I'd like to find a way if we can bring them in. It's their owner experience that they're missing out on. So we're going to do a little work on that to see if we can figure out what we can do for those owners. We also know that we approved a wedding and large event policy last year. And we're gonna work on it, so we bring back to the board another update to it. And a year's worth of data, which I'm a data person. I want to see how much we bring in, if we make any money, because if we get in and say, hey, 8 events and, you know, we made $12,000, I don't think that's sales, but if we go in and say, hey, we did X events and it's $250,000 or $300,000 for our bottom line, it's impactful.
And you
I want to have good information.
hold the pool.
Anyhow, we already talked about access control, one of my favorite things. We are also open the door to what else you guys want. So they're thinking this month about what else we should be looking at. I don't know what it is. And we talked about a dozen things. I'm not going to get into it. We are trying to expand beyond food and beverage, access control, newcomers, or what else. So look forward to we can do good, smart movement.
All right, thank you, John. I do have 7 questions, some of them online that will be easy to answer. I'll leave it up to the board, rapid fire, who wants to answer. First one, it's hard to believe that 387 owners use the lakes daily or weekly. That's a question. That's what our survey said.
Well, that's people appreciating the beauty of the lake.
All right, next question.
I think the number is bigger than that.
How big is the fishing trespassing issue for the court? I think, John, you kind of covered that with some of your comments there.
You know, at the end of the day, we've had some youthful trespass. We haven't had any major issues. It's paying. We're gonna try to slow it down. Hope to stop.
Okay. This one I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit. Why don't we close the back gate for all entry people? This will eliminate the need to spend more money. Most communities our size only have one main gate anyway, and only have a back gate as an egress only gate. The gate is slow enough to begin with. We don't need to change the entry process. Also, for the we need more security crowd, how do they plan on controlling the 1,250 doors at Heritage Bay and there's
I think most of that's already at the part that I didn't answer.
right? I do believe that a large number do use the back gate for entry as well as exit. So I don't know that that's a viable solution.
And we can count this together.
I think it's which way to start that. Like so that.
Also, just like, you know, by law, we need, or by the PUD, we need 2 methods of egress. The same applies that while it's not required, but sometimes there could be something that you can't get in. Okay, that just happened a couple of weeks ago. To have that date, it is what situations.
All right, next one. What is the purpose of not advertising the available classes? With advertising the community, once you advertise as a community, you then take responsibility for the class content and anything that may be going on in those classes. And unlike our wellness instructors or the people that we lease rooms to, again, the owner, we're not sure what they're teaching or what the classes are about. That's why they need to be vetted. So we have to be very careful of what we advertise and essentially put the quarry name. That's one of the main reasons of not advertising the classes. They can still get the word out through Facebook and Instagram. We have a very active following. I think there's 1,200 people on our Facebook page or something like that. So that's another way to get that word out. Next one, Steve, regarding quarry security. What are they doing at Heritage Bay? It's safe that kids come in there. There's nothing to keep them from coming in from the entrance across from CS.
That's correct, but we haven't observed that happen.
And then the last question, it's more towards me. Quarry Beach Club and the Q Bar, can we please figure out how to put the audio on the overhead speakers for the big sports games in the Q Bar? Last Monday night I watched the Miami, Indiana game. And how do we figure that one out? That's one that I have to figure out. So, that's it. Yeah, Mark gave some of the. That's it. All right, any questions from the audience? Yes, please.
Can you use my phone so we'll get messed up here?
everybody, Sandy Emergency, I live in Sweetport. I haven't been to a meeting in 15 years, a board meeting. I'll tell you, this is the most wonderful meeting I've been to, and I want first to thank each and every one of you. You did a fabulous job. See, we'll see you in 15 years. Okay.
And Ken Watterson. I came to apologize to the board for what I did at the last meeting. I misinterpreted what I was told about the kayaks. I was 100% wrong. I know Pam, I know Jody. I don't know the rest of you gentlemen, but I hope you forget about me.
Thank you.
You want to sing?
Oh, you want something? No, that's it. It is 6:06. I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second. Second.